Well, hello, Lord of Life Lutheran Church, and welcome to our final Creative Community Showcase of 2020. The past 10 weeks have been such an incredible window into the passions and joys and incredible gifts and creative hobbies of our community. So thank you for following along with us. Thank you for sharing, participating, interacting with us. And for this last showcase of 2020, we are going to be ending on a sweet one. It looks good, a little crispy on the top, but looks perfect. For those of you I haven't met personally yet, my name is Emilee Williams and I am the Minister for Small Groups here at Lord of Life, and I am a fervent believer in the power of community and creativity, which honestly is partly why I love baking so much. We'll get to that. So before we get started, let me just set the record straight before anyone jumps to any conclusions. I am no professional baker. I'm not really even that fancy at all. I follow the most basic recipes on Pinterest. I'm not really into science, so I don't always follow the exact instructions about the wet ingredients and the dry ingredients and the exact numbers and all of that, which I know apparently does make a difference in the final baked product. But for me, it's just about creativity. It's about having fun. I love asking myself, is today a seasonal recipe day? Is it a cozy recipe day? Who can I bake for? What am I feeling? What do I want to enjoy today? Dark chocolate chips. I'm not gonna measure these. I'm just gonna, whoops, see what I feel like. You know, and coupled with the creativity and the fun involved in it for me, baking almost always involves community. It involves another person or another group of people. You know, even if I could eat an entire loaf of pumpkin bread by myself, which I probably could, I don't want to. It's not as fun when it's just enjoyed by myself. I love to be able to bring other people into it. Baking for me honestly is the perfect blend of community and creativity. Okay, so I told you I wasn't fancy, I'm not super professional. This is my little makeshift baking prep station. I try, if I'm able to be organized in advance, to have all of the ingredients out ahead of time so I'm not making a mad dash into cabinets and sprinting through the baking process. I like to be able to enjoy it as much as I can. So today I am making some pumpkin cranberry bread. I love cooking seasonally. Obviously, everyone here knows I love pumpkins, I love fall, so I love making as many pumpkin recipes as I can in the fall. It grounds me in the seasons, it grounds me in time. Throwing in some cranberries, and yes, I'm also gonna throw in some dark chocolate because a little touch of sweetness goes a long way, and I love added sweetness. Okay. My handy dandy pumpkin puree. So we are 2 steps into baking. I've already made a mess. I already missed the pot one time for dumping of the pumpkin puree. Honestly, it's just part of the process. Whenever I bake, somehow I get all the ingredients all over my face before I even start eating it. So that might happen today. Honestly, it's part of the fun for me. I don't know. Will anyone judge me if I lick the bowl? And one of the things about baking, no matter how many times I try, when I start rushing through it, I miss ingredients, I mess things up, I make a mistake. So I do appreciate, even in the midst of this chaotic space, that I'm forced to slow down, think about what I'm doing, take it one step at a time, which is actually really an important practice right now. Yeah, I said I love being organized. Gets pretty messy pretty quick. So putting a little extra cinnamon because it's good. Ground nutmeg. It is a fall recipe, that is for sure. My favorite. I can already smell it. It smells good. Looking good. All right, so now we're throwing in these fresh cranberries and however much chocolate I want. And then we are done. That wasn't too bad. Final blend, and then we're pouring this into the pan. You know, even though I can't really explain the scientific process of baking, you know, for me there's something so powerful about that, what goes in the oven, the individual ingredients, whatever scientific chemical reaction that happens in the process of baking, I don't understand that. Something new is created. When you put in all the parts, when you add them all together, when they all show up, something new happens. That is good. The other thing about baking that just so grounds me is it takes time. There's no way around it. I could, but I would probably get sick. I can't enjoy this as is. It has to go in the oven. I have to let the process do its work. You know, as much as baking is something that is, you know, an indulgent enjoyment, that it's something that we often gratify ourselves with, baking requires patience. Once, you know, the baking part, once it's all done, you don't really have to wait, but the process requires you to slow down, to be watchful, to be patient, to be attentive, to be precise. There's something about it that forces you to wait, to let the process do what it needs to do. And I think there's something so powerful about that, thinking about community, thinking about the work of God through church, through our community. It takes time. Community takes time. Showing up takes time. The Holy Spirit often asks us, maybe more often than we would like, to be patient, to be attentive, to be watchful, but to wait. Now for the best part, taking it out of the oven. Well, as I force myself to practice a few more moments of patience as I let this pumpkin cranberry bread cool, I wanted to take a minute to again thank you all, not just for being a part of the Creative Community Showcase these last 10 weeks, but more than that, thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for the essential role that you play at Lord of Life, and for the important ingredient that you are to what God is doing in this community. Thank you for being a part of the work that God is doing. You know, in a similar way that baking requires us and asks us to slow down, to pay attention, to be mindful and watchful of the ingredients, of the process, of all of the instructions, you know, community is a similar thing. It works best when we slow down, when we are watchful and mindful. And so I hope that these videos, the last 10 weeks, have given you an opportunity to slow down and to really pay attention to the work that God is doing here at Lord of Life, to the incredible gifts that God has given us, and the incredible work of the Spirit that is going on here. I hope the Creative Community Showcase has given you an opportunity to slow down, to pay attention. Last but not least, my kind of final baking takeaway for community that I'm struck with, that I want to share with you all is, you know, just as the ingredients must have time to do their work in the oven and do the fancy chemical processes that happen with baking, community is such a similar thing. And we at Lord of Life continue to wait on the Holy Spirit to do the Holy Spirit's work in our midst. I think one of the most incredible reminders with baking and with so many different things is that often the result is not immediate, and important things are going on in the process. So one of the greatest gifts of the Creative Community Showcase for me is the reminder that we are not only creators, but that we are a community that is continually being created through the power of the Holy Spirit in our midst. We are a community of creators and those that are being created. So Lord of Life, no matter how messy it might get, no matter how much patience it might ask of us, no matter how many times we have to go back, do a step again, fix something that we messed up, just like with baking, there really is nothing sweeter than being the very handiwork of God through our community. The Creative Community Showcase will be back in 2021, but until then, Let this community work simmer. May the Spirit continue to work in all of us through our gifts, through our passions, through our hobbies, through all of it. Lord of Life, I hope you have a creative, messy, patient, hopeful holiday season. We'll be back in 2021. In case you were wondering, this is delicious. I'm so glad I added that chocolate.